years. There is a listing over there at the table of all of our speakers that we have had since January of 2017. It's remarkable.
Each table also.
It's remarkable, and the core group of people that come every single week and people that come in and out, it's really wonderful. I'm just so glad to see that you all continue to come. No matter where I go, no matter what action there is in Cincinnati, I know I'm going to see people from this group because you're impassioned like I am. A few announcements. Where did I do it? Oh, it's over here. I have a small stack of judicial endorsement cards that I got from Eddie Davenport last night. 600 of them were printed yesterday, and they're going to be printing another 10,000 of them today. So these are hot off the press. This is a group of endorsed judicial candidates. On the other side, you have Carrie Bloom and Nicole Sanders. Both of these ladies are going to be challenged in the primary. So it's very important that you know who these are. You start sharing this with folks. Our judicial system, you know, judicial reform is absolutely imperative in Hamilton County because that's where change starts. Yes, sir.
Is there some place where we can get a bunch for our neighborhoods?
As he said, he's going to be printing up 10,000 of them today, and then we'll be able to get them from the Hamilton County dentist. Okay. But we did put a couple of them out there, and there's a few of them over on the table. So get them out there and share with people. On a personal note, I received a very strange phone call on Sunday afternoon from the communication director of the Ohio Federation of Teachers. And he told me that my state president, Melissa Cropper, has nominated an Ohio Federation of Teachers in every single one of the congressional districts to hopefully be elected as a delegate to the Democratic National Convention. And I was the person that was selected by our state president to represent District 1. So I'm going tonight, and hopefully you will be there, and I would love to have your vote to be a delegate. I will be in the Bernie caucus. Bernie had all I can say is a kick-ass time at the Educational Forum in Pittsburgh. He came out as the superstar of that, and so Ohio Federation of Teachers is supporting Bernie, at least the delegates across the state of Ohio. So please come tonight. I would love to have your vote and represent us. But make sure you understand, the vote for Bernie, that's what I'm going to be in that caucus. So my first vote, if I would get to the convention, it goes to Bernie. This does not say I'm voting for Bernie. Just say when I go to the conference that I'm his delegate, okay?
Repeat where and when.
It is at the District 1 is where I am, is going to be at the Winton Woods Intermediate School on Waycross Road. Waycross runs between Sharon Road and Winton Road. It's kind of like an arc. You can get to it from Sharon Road or Winton Road.
There's a paper on your desk.
Yeah.
And on your table, there's starts with Susan and mine.
Yeah. And District 2, if you are a District 2 person, that is going to be at the Anderson High School, which is out off of Beachmont Avenue in Mount Washington. And the doors open at 6, the meeting starts at 7, and then the caucuses will break off from there.
The doors close at 7.
So in other words, if you're going to be there, you need to be there before 7, because you have got to be a person that has voted Democratic. You have got to be a Democratic registered voter.
I saw something that said independents could also vote. No. I saw that from Richard. Richard sent a message out.
He did?
I think if you voted for Cordray in the last election, you're considered a Democrat. Before then, it was, you had to be in a primary, but they had a whole list of things, so that if you voted for Cordray.
It's a secret ballot.
Well, I guess they're taking it for, I guess they know when you pick up your ballot that it was a Democratic ballot.
In a
Yeah, oh,
primary,
yes.
you have to declare for either a Democrat or a Republican, that's right.
Right.
But yeah, but I did see independents could also vote tonight, could also participate in their caucus.
Yes. I mean, that's my understanding as well.
Yeah.
Right. Just a few statistics. I wrote to Bill DeMora, who's the one who's been doing these conventions for the last 6 times. This is his 7th. And I asked him how many delegates were coming for the 3 top candidates. Sanders, there's 8 males, 22 females. Warren, there's 12 males, 28 females. Biden, there's 14 males, 11 females. The women have come out in full force. The other interesting statistic was in 2016, there were 780 applicants to be delegates in Ohio, and it set a record. This time, there were 3,300, more than 4 times what it was in 2016. So, well, Milwaukee's a really fun place, right?
No, it's actually a really cool downtown area, it's really funny
Just
area.
making a joke. But, so come out, it's gonna be a madhouse and historical what's gonna happen tonight. So is there anybody else besides the ones I already passed out buttons for District 2 that are planning to go for Barbara Myers? I'll bring in one. Come and vote.
The address is on your paper, on your sheet.
So I'm Ellen Beerhorst. Supposing you are a person who really wants Pete Buttigieg for president, you might consider going and voting in the Bernie room, because in the Bernie room you can vote for Richard Azimus, you can vote for Susan Mamie, and you can vote for Hoffman, what the hell? Katie! Sorry. Brain glitch. Because nobody thinks that this nominating convention will decide on the first ballot. And it is only on the first ballot that the people in the Bernie room have to vote for Bernie. The people for the Joe Biden room have to vote for Joe Biden. So I'm not at all sure which candidate I'm choosing, but I want certain level-headed, smart people to go to the convention. I don't know why Susan Mamie is willing to do this awful job, but she is. I don't know why Katie and Richard Azimus is willing to do this dreadful job. But I want them to be there because they're going to be deciding the party platform. They're going to be deciding who gets elected on the 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th ballot, which is where it's going to be decided. So that's why I'm going in the Bernie Sanders room, where only there I can vote for my favorite delegate candidates. I think I hope that's more clear than it was.
Give it to
Back here.
David.
Go ahead.
I'll make this really quick. I don't know whether you know that I have a degree in Middle Eastern Studies and Political Science. I was in Beirut my junior year. I am refining a chapter.
There's a microphone up front.
Book. I'm refining a chapter on the oil history of Iran, and I intend to put it on my Facebook page, and I'm going to send it to Peter, and if you guys desire, then he can republish it. But it is a history that is absolutely imperative for us to understand where all this anger comes from. And
The
what I have to
microphone.
say about that from direct knowledge
microphone up there
is we
works.
deserve it. So
But
we
nobody's
got to
using
find
it. The
out
one that's
about
by
that.
the- by the-
We've got to find out how we can release that tension and bring peace.
Thank you. I have to tell you, I was really torn in two directions last night when I heard first the military response to the killing of Soleimani, which was to remove all of the troops from Iran, and they identified 3 different groups of helicopters that were going to be moving people out at night, and then on top, and then Iraq. So anyway, the White House came out and said, no, we're not. They came out absolutely against whatever the military had said they were going to do. So I'm feeling like, where am I going to stand? Because they won't even say for another week what the reasons were for killing Soleimani. I just don't get it. You understand? It's called quicksand, right? Well,
Gets the impeachment off the front page.
Right. For another week, there was a thing on the old Cincinnati.com about Lordstown Complex, which is coming up. That's going to be in a couple of weeks, and we're going to have a film on that by Faith Gingrich. And is Faith here today? Is Faith here? No. But I did put out her list of all the activities. Now there is at least one copy of that on your paper. And I want you to notice that it has every single damn Democratic meeting that's going to happen at any time, anywhere in the Cincinnati area. And it gives you on a weekly basis, which it starts with us. Thank you. But it goes like through the week. What meets every Monday, what meets every Tuesday, what meets every Wednesday. And then it goes on what meets when, how. If you want to know what's happening in Cincinnati, there's that piece of paper. And if you don't know,
Get from the newsletter to her newsletter.
so there's a link on the newsletter to her newsletter, so just know that that's happening. But I think it's pretty comprehensive to just know that the list is out there. I mean, I think our list is really fabulous. But her list just does complete count. There's an on your desk, on every table. There's a couple of things. One is a list
This is
of.
what it looks like. This is what it looks like. It's got some blue printing on it. This is what it looks like. Because they were just put on the tables. But you can touch the link on Peter's newsletter. You can link on in Peter's newsletter. Touch the link and that will come up.
You might want to ignore it because it says Faith Gingrich, and every time I see that, it's like, why did she keep that name?
Well, that's
My first thing was to delete that. Before I knew who it was.
Okay.
Okay, and I have one more announcement.
Go for it.
They have finally scheduled a court watch observers training. It's next Tuesday from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Mount Auburn Presbyterian Church, which is where the League of Women Voters is, isn't it? Anyway, I have the information on this. I will give one to Peter, and then if anybody wants, there's a telephone number to RSVP, and with all the information on it. You can get one from me. Who wants one? I'll pass one. All right, thank you.
Okay, without further ado, I want to introduce our speaker for today. Other announcements? Wait, we've got more announcements.
Mr. Dieters is having a fundraiser next Thursday, the 16th, at Lucy Pizza, which is right by 12th and Main. And there's a group of us going to be standing across the street in protest. If you'd like to join us, Thursday the 16th at 4:45, 1123 Main, and I'll give this to Peter.
Very informative.
If there's anyone who still hasn't heard about Charmaine McGuffey's platform and reasons for running for sheriff, Carol and I are having a house party for her Sunday, January 19th at 4 o'clock at my house. So if you want to know more about it, just see me.
There you go. Martha.
Hey, listen, if we don't act against the war in Iran, it won't much matter what else we do. This old hat of mine, I've had it for years. I've patched it up any number of times. War is not the answer. I just want to tell you that at least, well, I know some people here maybe were down at the Fountain Square rally on Saturday against the war. Was anybody there? I couldn't get a ride there. I always say I wanted to go. But it was quite a turnout. I mean, in the rain and everything, it was good. And the Inquirer covered it on the front page. And lots of pictures. I guess some of you saw that. So what can we do? Us old people, we can't get around to things like that. At least make calls. Some people say it doesn't do any good. They do get their messages, our politicians. You can call their local numbers here, easy. I meant to bring the phone numbers, but easy to find, to call the senators and other representatives. I mean, we should inundate them with calls, either to Washington or through their local offices. We have to speak out. We can't just sit home and worry. So I'm just saying, when I called Portman, oh, well, I'll call him. He doesn't care what I think, but so I called various people. I called him. It was late at night. I knew I could leave a message. He answered. He answered the phone to me.
Good for you.
And so we talked about 10 minutes.
Wow.
I tell you, if I wanted to be depressed, I mean, that was the most depressing conversation I've had in my life. The most depressing. It sounds like he's ready for war. I mean, he sounded, surely not, but I mean, he said they attacked our embassy. So we can do everything. When we're attacked, we have to go back. I mean, everything he said, just, now I said a lot too. God, I mean, I said, wait a minute, you're worried about our arms? He said at one point, we gotta have more arms than we have? Have you ever looked at the list of armaments around the world and seen that we have more than everybody else put together? He said, well, we need to have.
We're gonna fight everybody at once.
Anyway, we have to do what we can to let our politicians know.
Really quickly, right now, on 91.7 Cincinnati edition, there's an hour show about the Teflon issue, the DuPont Teflon issue, for those of you that have seen Dark Waters. So that should be really interesting if you want to know more about that. And also, I just wanted to tell people there's a really great documentary from 2018 called The Devil We Know, streaming on Netflix. That's very, very good. It's less dramatic. It focuses on the people who actually went through the experience of suffering from that pollution.
Yeah. How are we doing? Now?
Hurry.
Okay, we're getting closer here, Connie.
Sorry.
So our speaker for today is Connie Pillich. She is running to replace Todd Portune. And I have here a copy of an email that I got from Todd Portune, who is endorsing her. So I want you to know that amidst all of this stuff where people are getting endorsed and recommended, and when none of us know what's happening, that there seems to be all this stuff going on behind the scenes here, and she's got Todd Portune's vote. And here we go. So here we go. We're ready for the Hamilton County Commissioner position. We have Connie Pillich.
Thank you. What's up, Democrats? Are we excited today?
Yeah.
Can you believe we have 4 contested primaries in Hamilton County for a Democratic office? Has that ever happened before? This is a new era. It's a new era in Hamilton County politics. Democrats are coming up. We are here, and this room, I think it's 3. Oh, I was told I'm too loud. Sorry about that. I've heard it's 3 years you've been meeting?
Yes.
Every week? I want to thank, where's Alberta? She disappeared. Thank you for doing this, for getting speakers in. And Katie. Well, Alberta did it for a while, and I know, well, at least I thought she did. But and Katie, that's a lot of work to put this together, and thank you all for taking time out of your lives for being here. I am so excited to be here. You know, it's a beautiful day, my favorite kind of weather, clear and cold. You can get things done. And what better thing to do but to come here and have lunch with a bunch of crazy Democrats who meet every week to talk about the issues and make sure they're up on things. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the race. I want to tell you a little bit about me. Some of you know me. And I want to take a lot of questions because I know this is a smart group. And every time I've been here, I've heard lots and lots of questions. So I am running for county commissioner because I have always been drawn to service. That's why I joined the military to serve our country. That's why I became a public defender. That's why I served in the state legislature and I'm active in the nonprofit world. But I also know that there is an incredible amount of work that can be done at the county level that can have such a positive impact on the lives of everyday people in our county. And well, for me, the things that I want to work on, I was telling, I think it was Ellen earlier, that my great passion is infant mortality. I don't think anybody will vote for me because of that passion, but it just is something I'm very concerned about. And Hamilton County has the highest rate of infant mortality in the state of Ohio. And we are among the worst 10% in the country, right here in Hamilton County. So we're doing some things wrong. So certainly there are so many other things that I want to work on. I want to work on economic development, not just in the city core, but also in the neighborhoods and in the outlying areas. I want to make sure we have an effective, affordable, public transit system, because people got to get to work and back. They got to get to their things and back. And where's Martha was talking about not having a way to get someplace. We all need to have places to go. We need to be able to get to those places. I also want to make sure that we work on criminal justice reform. As a public defender, this is something that's very important to me. And the jail is overcrowded. There's a lot we need to do. We're not getting the right systems in place to keep people from recommitting offenses and getting caught up in the system. I want to protect children and make sure that they're healthy and safe. I want to make sure that we have an economy that everyone has an access to jobs, not just the jobs training, but the way to get to those jobs. We have to make sure we have a just economy. You know, Cincinnati could be a world-class city if we only had the leadership to make sure we continue on that path to get there. We need a county commissioner who is calm, level-headed, and sensible, and can work and play well with others. So I want to tell you a little bit about, I brought some notes, and I hope it's okay if I refer to these, because I have a feeling you're going to ask me some questions. So 2020 is a really interesting time to be a Democrat in Cincinnati. We have a lot of opportunity here. We got a lot of people running. We have a lot of elections to win. I know the presidential race is going to take a lot of everybody's interest. The congressional races are going to take a lot of everybody's attention. But we have other races too. The things that impact us on a day-to-day, whether our roads are paved, whether we have deputies who can staff the jail, whether we have social workers in the Department of Children's Services, whether we have social workers in the jail that can help people get out of jail and lead productive lives. All of these things happen because the county funds them. All of these things. So it's important that we win a lot of elections. And friends, elections are about listening to voters. It's about hearing what the voters have to say and finding out what their issues are and finding ways to relate to those issues. I bring life experience as a mother, as a public defender, as a military veteran that helped me immeasurably. As a mom, I know what it's like to raise kids and beg that they come out to be good kids because the world is hell-bent on making sure that's impossible. I know what it's like to worry about my children's safety while they're in school. I get education. I get health care. I get nutrition. I get sexting and texting. These life experiences help me to relate to the suburban women whose votes we need, we Democrats need, if we want to win in November and long into the future. This is where the rubber meets the road in the county. As a lawyer and a public defender, I know what it's like. Well, let me put it this way. I understand how the legal system can help people and how it can hurt people. I have seen people who were struggling with addiction. I got them into drug treatment. I've gotten illegal evidence thrown out. I have seen police officers lie on the stand. I've seen them tell the truth on the stand. I've seen children put into shackles in the courtroom. Children put into shackles in the courtroom. It's a hard place to see. In my civil practice, I've protected victims of predatory lending who were caught up in the foreclosure crisis. We need to have people who understand the system and who are willing to fight for ordinary people. These are the challenges that affect ordinary people all across the county, in every neighborhood, all the time. This affects all of our families. And finally, as a veteran, I understand service, sacrifice, and duty. And that characteristic of mine is something that has been very important in my ability to win a Republican district 3 times. If we're going into an election in 2020, we gotta make sure that we have a candidate who can win. Sometimes there's not a lot of daylight between Democrats in some races. So we want to make sure that we have a candidate who can win. To win in 2020, in this race, we have to have a candidate who can win tough races. We have to have a candidate who's willing to do the work and is not just going to put pictures of herself up on Facebook. That's not how you win races. And all of you know this because you've all done the work. Who was it talking about going door to door? I think it was Katie was talking about that. That's how we get our judges elected. That's how we get all our candidates elected. We need a candidate who can raise the money to pay for this campaign. This is a countywide campaign. Not just pay for her own campaign, but be able to help the party so we can print more of these to get our 13 judicial candidates elected. So we can bring justice, fair treatment of people in the court system to Hamilton County in a very solid way. And we need a candidate who can attract a broad array of voters because we are only marginally blue. We were blue, we had some great victories last year, didn't we? We got 5 judges elected. We had some great victories. And it's not just because we just happened to be blue, it's because we had great candidates who worked their tails off, and we had a team that helped support those candidates and bring them across the line. So we have to have that. And frankly, we also need, in the commission, as I said earlier, we need someone who's calm, who's sensible, who's level-headed, and who's willing to work with all the folks that the county interacts with. So let me tell you about why I think I'm the best candidate to win this primary and the general election. First, I'm the only candidate who has a history of winning tough campaigns. In 2008, I got elected to the state legislature. I won a seat that had been held by Republicans for 38 of the last 40 years. In 2010, I beat back a challenge by the founder of the Cincinnati Tea Party. And in 2012, they redrew the district. We all know they redrew the districts. We've heard of gerrymandering, right? Anybody hear that?
Oh, yeah.
It's horrible. That's why we have such terrible things going on. To keep my seat after the gerrymander, I personally knocked on 24,000 doors. My team knocked on 65,000. It took me over 20 months to knock on 24,000 doors. Now, I'm out in the boonies. I'm in the suburbs, okay? I live in Montgomery, not exactly a bastion of Democratic politics. And the doors, just all the doors, are a little further apart in the suburbs. But the independent doors and those Democratic doors are even further apart. That's why it took me 20 months. I went into that term knowing that I had to do that work. And I tell you this because it shows you that I had the focus and determination and the discipline to do exactly what it took to win that race. And I won that race by 8 points. 56% Republican district, and I got an 8-point victory. As far as resources, I'm fortunate that I'm in a position where I can pay for the primary. But I'm a very good fundraiser. Over the course of my political campaign, I have raised over $6 million. In that 2012 campaign, I raised $570,000 for myself, and then the caucus helped with about $190,000. No one else in this primary has ever raised more than $25,000. It is hard work. My first campaign was very hard. I had to learn because it was a hard race. I had to learn, and I got a lot of help from a lot of people. But we have to be able to raise this money. It's arduous, it's relentless, it's grueling. You're 10 and 12 hours a day working on raising money. I'm fortunate that I can spend my time talking to the voters because I can pay for this primary. But I'm also the only candidate who knows how to raise this money and knows how to make sure that we have enough money to print 150,000 of these and deliver them to 100,000 doors and pay for poll workers at 120 to 150 polls so that people get their judicial slate. This is what's at race. So, you know, it's true that money isn't everything in a campaign. It doesn't mean you're going to win, but you can't do anything without it. You can't get a pen to sign things. You can't pay for any of these flyers. You can't pay for your yard signs. You can't do anything to do that. So finally, I want to share with you the polling is favorable for me. The Republican poll says that I'm the candidate who can beat Andy Black. He's the GOP nominee. We don't know what kind of campaign he will be putting together, but he does seem to be taking it very seriously by putting a poll out there very early and then publicizing the results to let people know he's serious. So look, folks, I'm a nuts and bolts candidate. I've never been the politician who's all about herself. For me, it has always been about service, and it always will be. And if I get the opportunity to represent you on the county commission, I promise you that that's what it'll be about while I'm in office. So I'd love to answer questions. Yes?
An extra microphone.
Oh, we need a runner.
You gotta push it down the center. You gotta push it down the center. The rubber part.
Stand up.
So,
Yeah, stand up and help.
I have a real serious concern, and that is how not only Fox News, but CNN and MSNBC and many people ensconced in the Democratic Party are saying, if you campaign on those hard left issues, and they almost all use that term, we will be giving the election to Trump and all the way down the ticket. My belief is that the exact opposite is true, that these are the issues that are supported by huge polling numbers that define the center of the American public and the mood of America. Do you think that the best way to bring out the voters is to talk about the bread and butter issues and support them strongly?
Well, I agree with you that what we consider our issues are really the bread and butter issues. Raising the minimum wage, making sure we have criminal justice reform, having a fair economy that lifts everyone, and raises all boats, as the saying goes. And we have seen that across the country. Don't just take my opinion for it. We've got data. It's all across the country. These issues are very important. At the county commission level, it's really hard to say at this point, 11 months out, what will be on voters' minds. We're going to have a few other elections that are going to be probably talking about those bread and butter issues. The issues that I'm going to talk about my vision for the county to make sure we have criminal justice reform, to make sure we have public transit, make sure we have access to jobs, to focus on those who are vulnerable. But I'm largely going to focus on, these are the issues that I think people want to learn about, but I'm also going to focus on how I have always been, my focus has always been about service to others. And that is how I have lived my life, and that is how I have lived my professional career, and that's how I intend to be a county commissioner as well.
I have several things that I'm really concerned about, and wondered what you think you might be able to do when you're in the commission. One is affordable housing. We need more addiction recovery programs that are long-term, like First Step Home. Most people with addiction don't really get what they need to recover, and then we lock them up. And also, your take on this Gang of Five stuff, I'm so irritated with this. It just seems like Republicans finding a way to clobber the Dems. Just wondering what you thought.
Well, yeah, look, the Gang of Five thing is, sometimes people find it hard to have a reason for someone to read their stories. And it seems to
We don't know what that is.
good. She said, we don't know what that is. It is a red herring meant to distract you from the real issues of the day. And the idea that this so-called Gang of Five had a conversation and got their hands slapped and they won't do it again, and now they're thinking of referring them to prosecution, that is just baloney. I'm sorry, it's balderdash. It is a political plot to distract people from the horrible situation in which we find ourselves. That's what it is. Affordable housing is an absolutely critical issue. We are, the housing industry, and not the industry, the housing situation in Hamilton County is very, very difficult. People can't buy homes. Whoa, okay. People can't afford homes. They can't buy homes. They can barely afford rent. And it's getting worse. We have seen some things that are coming up. The Cincinnati Business Courier reported last week a mixed housing development, and I can't remember where it is, but it's largely focused to affordable housing. Rents as low as $295 a month. Certainly this is affordable housing. And this has been something that's been very important to me throughout my tenure as a legislator. The county can be one of those resources that can fight for and leverage federal money to come in here and support our efforts to build more affordable housing. We have to do it. When the Republicans control the commission, they don't care. They don't care about that. That is not an issue that there has ever been any evidence of them caring about. And that's why it's important that we have a strong Democrat win this seat. And the last one? Addiction, oh boy. Well, the opioid crisis, of course, is horrible and it affects all of us. But when I was a public defender, I did spend a lot of time in drug court. And I was able to get people out of regular criminal court and into drug court. It wasn't always automatic. But it was very important to them. And I just want to share with you 2 times this has happened to me. I would be walking down the street downtown or over the Rhine, and a man came up to me and said, Miss Pillich, do you remember me? Do you remember me? And I'm like, I've had 1,000 clients. Not exactly. But then he would tell me his name. And the reason I didn't remember him was because he didn't look like himself. Because I had gotten him into drug treatment. And he did a 15-month residential program. And he now didn't have sunken eyes. He'd gotten his teeth cleaned up. He put on weight. He had a job. He was able to see his children again. The drug addiction is horrible. And we have to make sure that we take care of those things.
Can you
And-
find more money for it here? We need more money for programs here.
Well, it's certainly gonna be a priority of mine.
Okay.
Now, some of this is done through levies, and some of that money comes from the state. And a lot of that money needs to come from Washington, and a lot of that money needs to come from the drug companies that have been responsible for the opioid crisis. Not just here, but all over Ohio and the country. And that's something we're absolutely gonna fight for.
I just wanted to stress how important these races are. To me, the book Dark Money changed my whole conception of politics. For years and years, I confess, I didn't care about anything except Congress and the presidency. What the Republicans, who are only like 25% of the population, had the strategy to do is take over all these so-called low ballot issues and get control of the legislature, get control of the cities, way out of proportion to their actual number of representatives. And it means that we really need to, I hope you have a little card like yours, I like that one, with your name on it too. We really need to go door to door and stress these issues, I would say even more than the national issues. We've got to really take back our own communities.
I really appreciate that, Peter, because we hear everything about the presidential races. We hear everything about Donald Trump. We hear a lot of things about Congress and the congressional races. But what really comes right up to your front porch? It's your roads, it's your jail, it's your courthouse, it's your schools, it's the sewer. That's another thing I'm working on, is the sewer district. Fresh water. These are the local issues. These are the things, I call them the front porch issues, because they affect you right there on your front porch. And it is the state legislatures, it is the city councils and the county commissions that can have a huge impact on that. And we don't usually get much publicity. Getting someone to cover a press conference when you're a state representative, I don't think I've ever had anyone come. I did have one person come when I made my announcement for county commission, so I was very excited. I was not prepared for anybody to be there, but these are the real issues. So, and you're right, Peter, you have to win these. You know, the people who are serving on your city councils, like in Forest Park or in Blue Ash, they could be running for the state legislature 10 years from now. The people serving in the state legislature right now, they're going to be running for Congress. They're going to be running for U.S. Senate. They're going to be running for governor. These are really important positions, and we have to get good candidates into office to do that. And someone had asked me about, have I ever helped any other candidates? And I started to make a list, and I just want you to know, and you're going to know some of these names and you won't know some of them, but I just started to type up a list. Jessica Miranda, Jill Schiller, Nikki Foster, Scott Crowley, Christine Fisher, Ann Flotman, Denise Driehaus, Bridget Kelly, Yvette Simpson, Nikki Antonio, she's in Cleveland, Emily Hagan, Cleveland, Casey Weinstein, he's in Hudson, Paula Hicks Hudson, Toledo, Haley Stevens in Michigan, Ayanna Presley in Massachusetts, Ted Strickland, Hillary Clinton, Luke Feeney, Marissa Bauer, Luke Feeney's mayor of Chillicothe, Marissa Bowers just got elected to Gahanna City Council, Katie Etachico got elected in Reading. We got a Democrat on the Reading City Council. I knocked doors with her. Chris Liebold, who's in Fremont. Have you ever been to Fremont? So it's up in Seneca, Sandusky County. It's pretty far north. But I mean, I have spent a lot of my time trying to help candidates that I think are strong, because we need brothers and sisters all across the state in every office to be in a strong position. Sorry.
I agree with your strong importance of infant mortality.
Where's the mic?
He's got it.
Put it closer.
The infant mortality, and the Inquirer might pick an article, write an article that says Cincinnati's rated low, Ohio's rated low, but what action is really taken. And the same thing with an article this morning in the Inquirer of an infant dying because of head trauma. What education do we give the parents? The kids should be certainly important.
Well, there's no license to become a parent. anybody can become a parent, and we hope that they have had enough modeling in their own family to learn how to treat children and babies as fragile beings. But, unfortunately, it's not always so. The two programs that I really like, one is the Nurse Family Partnership, which is something I learned about when I was in the legislature. This takes public health nurses and partners them with a pregnant woman who's at risk in some fashion. And she meets with her every week, makes sure she goes to all her prenatal care appointments, and then she keeps that relationship for the first 2 years of life, of the baby's life. Is that the coolest thing ever? So, the pregnant woman starts to learn responsibility and these life skills of taking care of herself, the expectation that medical care is important to her, and then she learns a lot. She has a coach who teaches her how to take care of an infant, how to deal with the crying baby and colic and all those things. The second one is a more recent one, and that's Greater Cincinnati, which is designed to sort of carry on that work just in the nonprofit world. And the third one that I just thought of that I really like, besides the Nurse Family Partnership and Cradle Cincinnati, is the Cincinnati Child Poverty Collaborative. And this was an all-volunteer program started and frankly led by Republican business leaders who, there are a couple who, while they're Republicans, they have a heart. And so we disagree on some things, we agree on others, and we need to work together where we can. Poverty is a big determinant. And when you have that kind of stress in your home, you don't have a stable place, you don't have a clean place, you don't have a fit place to raise your children, that causes a lot of difficulty. So, yes, please.
On that topic, I want to add that when you have a legislature that is trying to basically eliminate Planned Parenthood and opportunities for women to get birth control and take control of their family planning, you have a government, a whole party actually going in the opposite direction. Instead of trying to support young mothers, making it harder for them to plan their families, making it harder for them to get the health care they need so that they can be healthy mothers. And also, these children who are born in poverty that is so extreme, most of their parents are working. Their mothers are not staying at home taking care of those children. Those mothers are working 2 and 3 jobs trying to figure out a way to survive with low income, housing insecurity, and the children. So all of it's tied together. It's all interconnected. The children there's a domino effect. It affects the whole family. It affects the child's potential development and brain development. Anyway, that's just an addition to what that topic is. I wanted to change over to transportation.
Okay.
What do you think of the efforts being led between the county and the city to support public transportation in a whole new way?
Well, first of all, thank you for your comments about Planned Parenthood. So when I got out of the Air Force, I was newly married, and I guess I'd been married about a year, and we were ready to start a family, and I was trying to figure out how do I translate what I did in the military to a civilian job. And, top secret security clearances, that's nice, but nobody cares in the civilian world that you had that. So I decided to volunteer, and I got pregnant pretty quickly, so we were lucky. And I decided to volunteer, and I volunteered at Planned Parenthood. So it was terribly frightening as a pregnant woman to walk through the throngs of protesters who started screaming at me just so I could go in and volunteer in the office. And I did stuff like filing and typing and stuff. Just what they needed. And I went in pretty regularly until it got too scary for me. And when I went to the legislature, I went to Columbus because I wanted to work on jobs and education, and mostly education and jobs. And then my third reason was jobs and education. But we kept getting these crazy bills introduced. John Kasich signed 19 pieces of anti-choice legislation. And you're so right, these hurt women. We're talking about infant mortality. One of the remedies of the many, to defeat infant mortality is child spacing.
Right.
Making sure they're 2 years apart from birth to birth. Because if they're closer, the chances of sudden infant death syndrome increases. So this is a way to help women and to help families who want to I can't imagine how devastating it would be to lose your child. I had 2 miscarriages. I know what that's like, but to have your baby on the ground and lose that baby, I can't imagine how that would affect your ability to parent. So I appreciate that. And just recently, in the last few months, I guess it was in September, Planned Parenthood closed 2 of its facilities on the west side. Now, they didn't do abortion. They did health care. They just did health care, other types of health care, because abortion's health care. But they just did other types of health care, and they had to close. And I can tell you, I was the only one in this primary who was at that. And I wasn't running. I wasn't even thinking about running. I was there because that's who Connie Pillich is. When I was in the legislature and the Republicans tightened the judicial bypass. If you don't know what that is, or if you want to know, I'll be happy to tell you what it is. But they tightened they made it more difficult for children to go to a judge to ask for permission to get an abortion. And so I offered an amendment. I said, look, I know this bill's going to pass because you're all right to life and you're right to that type of that procedure. But why don't we take care of these children who are pregnant and give them prenatal care and well baby visits up to 6 weeks? Because there's, they didn't want to get pregnant, they didn't want to have a baby. You're making them become a mother at the age of 14 or whatever it is. Let's make sure this baby gets a good start. And it was voted down. And you know why? They said, we don't know how much that's going to cost. And I thought, yeah, it's going to cost somebody a lot of money. So, but I didn't get to transportation. I do support the levy. And I think it's very important that we try to make sure that we provide efficient, effective transit, public transit that goes to all the places, like wherever Martha went. We were talking about that earlier. So please, I know Susan has a question too.
I have a question about climate change and what you think the county commission can do to help that.
Oh, my neighbor says, we've all been hoodwinked. I just move on. Yeah, tell that to the Australians. Well, I happen to be a person who thinks we ought to believe science and trust the consensus about climate change and the devastation it's going to wreak on our planet and our children's world. We're all going to be fine, but my kids and their kids, it's going to be really hard. So the things we can do at the county level, we can do things to reduce our energy consumption. We can require LEED certified buildings anytime we're building a new building or even leasing a new building. We can make sure we use energy efficient light bulbs. We can make sure we have energy efficient heating and cooling systems. We can do all kinds of things. When I was in the Air Force, we did things called energy days. That's where they turned off the air conditioning. Yeah, that was in Biloxi, Mississippi, one of my glamour spots that I went to. Yeah, turn off the air conditioner. Well, we would do it usually on Friday at noon, and then we'd be off all weekend, and then we'd turn it on Monday morning. And so Monday was usually a little bit warm, So, we could require that energy for the county buildings, county operations, comes from renewable sources. We can require our fleet of vehicles to be more fuel efficient. We can do a lot of things. And we need to do that as leaders. Please, another question.
Yes, regarding climate change. To quote Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of my favorite people, the good thing about science is true whether you believe it or not.
I like that. I'm married to a scientist. So, he's retired now, and he's one of those old white guys that sits on his computer, but all he does is watch science and learn science. Real science, not this fake stuff. Please, go ahead.
Okay, Dear Horse, thank you, Connie, for being here and for your lifetime of public service. And you have my enthusiastic support to run for county commission. You should know that Alicia Reese, a very beautiful black woman, is running against Connie. but Alicia has some dark marks on her scorecard. And I would not want her on the county commission. But I absolutely want Connie, because look what a campaigner she is, and a leader, and smart. Whoa! What I want to ask you, Connie, is this. Look, I've got a PhD, pardon my language, and I should be smart, but I don't know what the county commission does, really. I don't know. Somehow it's about money, and money comes from here, and then the county commission says it should go here and here. Could you please give us a couple minutes on what is the county commission?
That is such a great question, and thank you so much for your enthusiastic support, and I hope you let me put you on my list of supporters that we put on our website. All right, so Tim is my campaign manager back there. He's going to take down Ellen Beerhorst's name. So he'll probably ask me how to spell Beerhorst. I think it's Bierhorst. So I did study German for once, so I understand some things. So the county commission is consists of 3 members. So right now we have a vacancy because Todd Portune just retired, and we got Denise Greenhouse and Stephanie Dumas. Denise has endorsed me, by the way, so I'm really proud of that. Stephanie is staying silent because she has lots of friends, I guess, and I think that's okay. So the county commission does have a lot to do with money. We set the county budget, and that is the biggest role of the county. So if we want to fund children's services, which is something I'm very passionate about, the county decides how much money is going to go there to support them. The county commissioners, yes. The county commissioners decide how much money goes to the jail. The county commissioners decide how much money goes to staff the courthouse. The county commissioners decide how much money goes into those addiction and recovery services that we have the capacity to fund. The county commission also reviews about 90% of the tax levies, like from the zoo or the Council on Aging, things like that, the mental health recovery services. Their tax levy review committee, I was a member of that and learned so much during my tenure there. That committee meets with anyone who wants to put a levy, a property tax levy on the ballot, and they do a lot of work, a lot of research, because the commissioners cannot do everything themselves. There's too many things to do, so they have this committee that does this work and then gives a report to the commission and makes a recommendation whether that should be put on the ballot or not for the voters. You know, one of the things, I've only been here 30 years, so I moved here when I was -2 years old. And and then, anyway, but one of the things that was most amazing to me was that we had a health services levy, that the people of Hamilton County cared enough about health care that they had a health services levy to help take care of those who couldn't afford their own health insurance. This doesn't happen anywhere else in Ohio. It's amazing. And so you all have been voting to renew that for years. Children's services to take care of abused children and neglected children. I mean, of all the places, Claremont County repeatedly votes those down. What kind of people live there? But Hamilton County, we have that. I think we have the library levy, the zoo levy. We have all these different levies. I don't want to scare you by how many levies we have. We're going to have the transit levy. So these are the things that have to go through the Tax Levy Review Committee. This is a perfect clue to tell you to hurry up and stop talking. But those are the things. That's a really important facet. The County Commission also sets policy. Not exactly legislation, but it's policy for the county operations. And things like working on making sure we have energy efficient operations is a really good point, because we have a lot of facilities and we should make sure that we are not draining our natural resources. So I want to thank everyone in the room who came, and I'm appreciative that you let me talk so long. You know, I am a lawyer, I could talk forever and ever, but it's really nice to talk about these different issues and to hear your issues of concern. And I want to tell you that I would like to ask for your support. I'd like to ask for your vote. If you'd like to be on my list of supporters, Tim will take your name. We've got over 55 people right now who've already put their name on it, and we've just started our campaign, so I'm really thrilled. But I do pledge to you that if I get the opportunity to serve, I will do so based on serving you, that I will hold open office hours around the county on a regular basis. I did that when I was a legislator. I never missed a single month, and because I know that no one wants to come downtown and talk to the county commission and pay for parking down there, but I will come to where you are, and I promise that I will, and I promise that I will be open and accessible and be willing to talk to you about all the issues. I've always prided myself on doing my own research. It helps being a lawyer because you know where all those things are, but I've always done that even as a Democrat, and I want to share one other thing with you. The very first budget I voted on, we were in the throes of the recession, and we had to make cuts of $2 billion from the state operations. And the first version of the budget that came to us, we were in the majority, so it was our budget, came to us, and I'm looking over this, and I've been in office for 4 months, maybe 3, and I stood up and I told my speaker and the Democratic caucus that I could not vote for this budget because it didn't have enough money for children's services. Now, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. I was a freshman. I didn't know anything. But you know what? They fixed that. And I said I wouldn't vote for it otherwise. And they fixed that. So sometimes you just gotta stand up even if you're not really supposed to. You gotta forget those limits. And you gotta try. And that's what I pledge I'll do to you. Thank you so much. And let's go Democrats!
Thank you. Great speaker. Yay. Next week, we have the Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber coming, Audrey Treasure. One of the reasons why I formed this group was because I saw a group like this working, and they had 27 years doing this, and hello? I knew so much more about what was happening in Tucson than I did in Cincinnati. Well, every week I come here and I find out a little bit more about Cincinnati. 150 programs, and I still feel like I'm here to find out about what's happening in Cincinnati. So I'm really pleased.
If you bring it too close to your mouth, it shuts off.
Hello?
Alberta, bring it too close to your mouth, it shuts off. Pull it down. Pull it down.
Okay, how's that?
Alberta, I want to say something about the speaker next week. I met her at the polls when we were handing out stuff.
Audrey Treasure.
Right, and she does the small business and works with them to raise their minimum wage. So, and she's helping them realize that it really helps their business by paying them a fair wage. And I had to sort of roll my eyes when she said she worked at the chamber, because I know that they have a sort of a right wing, but I thought her story sounded very interesting, and it may help us understand maybe the chamber's change course, or the least we can ask. But anyway, she was a very nice young woman.
And the week after that, we have a book. The book is about, it's changed the title now. I only got the change of title this morning, or last night. Why Sanctuary Matters, Cincinnati's New Immigrants and the Politicians Who Betrayed Them. Ooh. My understanding is that our gifts for the refugees that we gave at Christmas, not our Christmas, in December. Right.
Shut it off.
They really enjoyed our presents, folks. And then there's a film on Lordstown Battle coming up. Wonderful things happening in our future here. Please come back. You are a great, great audience. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. I love you. Bye-bye.